in the calmness of the eddy, you're looking at a horizon line, and you know that once you commit to that horizon line, you better stay on line.
The expedition scout takes the plunge. He skillfully fights his way through the cauldron of furious white water. It takes everything he's got. Willie makes it down. He's followed by a handful of die-hard kayakers. Every one of them struggles. Back at the top of the rapid, and it's decision time for Greg.
Watching the run so far, it looks like it's a pretty controllable rapid. It's big, but it's controllable. It's just a matter of trying to gauge the good nervous energy from the bad nervous energy.
Running this sort of white water blind requires nerves of steel.
Fairly straightforward entry, and once you get to the bottom, feather right.
Greg's decided to take it on. It will be the ultimate challenge.
At the top of the rapid, there's a certain calmness in the water, but your mind's just going berserk because you're looking at all the various possibilities that might happen to you as you enter the rapid. But once you enter the rapid, there's a certain calmness.
He pushes off and commits to perhaps the most risky whitewater ride of his life.
As you enter that rapid, you cannot see what's going on downstream. All you see is first a huge wave coming in, and then white.
He drops into the fury of the Mangde CHHU. Paddling through a melee of white water, Greg fights his way along the route he's memorized. Finally, he emerges out the other side of the monster rapid. He's held his nerve and won.
That's pretty sweet.
It seems like you have the best line of anyone who's running on beta.
Yeah, maybe looking at him doesn't always help.
When you come out of a big rapid, you know, the first thing you feel is relief. Followed shortly after that is just, I just get a lot of energy from it. You just, I don't know, you're just fired up.
The amazing thing about the way that Greg paddles is he's doing this unbelievable Class 5 boating all over the world, and he does it all without having the ability to get out and scout and look at things beforehand. And I don't think there's anybody else in the world that does that. It's truly remarkable what he does.
The team has made it past what they hope is the last major whitewater on their journey. But if they think they're home and dry, they've got another thing coming. The expedition is nearing the end of its epic journey across Bhutan.
Left back, right forward.
They are fighting their way out of the canyon in which they've been trapped for days. As they leave its dangers behind, they can finally appreciate this unusual world.
Sitting in your boat, looking around at the canyon walls, it's hard to imagine that places like this exist.
You're seeing river that no Westerners ever seen before. And, you know, there's beehives hanging off of cliffs and spectacular rock formations.
One reason that you kayak is to go into these amazing places and see parts of the world that no one else can go to.
We put in pretty much in the heart of this lower gorge. It's still too steep for vegetation through certain sections, but it's definitely easing back. The canyon is really, this is unlike anything anywhere else.
The team paddles its way out of the canyon that's held them hostage for so much of their journey. And they're pleased to see the back of it.
And here we go, man. We finally made it out of the canyon.
Leaving the mountains behind, the expedition should now be able to float through Bhutan's flat southern plains all the way to their objective, the Indian border. But as soon as they leave one hazard behind, they head straight into the next.
There's a storm coming.
The river ahead is finally calm, but the dark sky above is threatening heavy rain.
that for us can spell disaster, because suddenly you have water levels which are rising, and then the entire characteristic of the river changes.
With the rain beginning to fall, Jerry is desperate to find out how far they are from the Indian border. Free from the depths of the canyon, their GPS equipment is finally back online.
We're getting some good satellite here.
All right, excellent. At least this way we'll know where we are, roughly.
But when they get their coordinates, they know they're in for trouble. They have at least 2 days of paddling ahead of them, more than enough time for water levels to rise.
Copy that, Willie. We will cruise down as one unit, over.
And although it's only raining lightly, Jerry knows rain at this time of year is particularly lethal. The surrounding land is already saturated with water from the recent monsoon, meaning this unexpected rain will run straight off the steep landscape into the river, creating deadly flash floods.
Gravity takes over, sending a wave of all of that water down through these rivers in these cataclysmic floods that are just a churning mass of water.
The team is in extreme danger. That night, Jerry knows the expedition hangs in the balance. With their equipment finally working again, Jerry uses a satellite phone to get the lowdown on the weather in the rest of the country.
Yes, we're looking for a weather report for eastern Himalayas, specifically central Bhutan. Wow. And so the whole region's getting plastered right now. So it looks like this cyclonic system has been dumping for the last 72 hours. It's certainly a huge concern for the expedition because none of us had banked at all on this type of precipitation.
The team is going to face white water deadlier than anything they've seen. The next morning, the rain has passed, but the runoff is yet to hit.
There was this fear the whole time that the river could change and the river could flash from rain upstream, and suddenly we would all be in a serious predicament.
Jerry knows from past experience the next 12 hours will hold very real danger.
It's the classic case of river levels coming up. The last expedition to the Mangde CHHU failed, and basically people escaped with their lives.
The team take to the river knowing they're in for a rough ride.
Left back, stop, all forwards go. Dig it in, let's go, all forwards go.
No one is more nervous than the kayaking novice, Will Hovey.
Well, I'm gonna hope to stay right side up.
They head down the river, which is slowly beginning to build. And it doesn't take long for the rising water to become a problem. Soon, the Mangde CHHU is a torrent. They find themselves paddling through the kind of white water that they had hoped they'd left behind.
Once the volume on a river like the Mangde CHHU increases, it just becomes a different animal. Things just start to become so powerful, unimaginably powerful.
Will Hovey is fighting his way through. It takes every ounce of concentration. But he's doing well.
Well, I had a best rapid I've ever done. That's about as elated as I've ever felt at the bottom of a rapid, having stuck that one. But things can change pretty quickly, so I'm staying on my guard.
Left, forward, right back!
Meanwhile, Jerry is busy guiding his raft crew through the worst of the white water. And it's a tense ride.
These are big rapids. You're running class 5 rapids. There's consequences, and so there's no, second chance.
You're just in the hands of the river. You're out of control, and there's nothing much you can do. And sometimes I was thinking, what's going to happen if I fall out? Am I getting sucked in? Am I going to drown?
As the rapids begin to grow, rookie kayaker Will Hovey finds himself in over his head. Struggling in the raging water, the team have to close ranks to keep him afloat.
Just had some tense moments, a couple flips where I didn't want to be upside down. Everything ended up working all right, but I think I'm gonna have butterflies for the rest of my life.
But the furious Mangde CHHU suddenly surges in volume. It becomes an uncontrollable monster. It refuses to release them from its grasp. They are trapped, fighting for their lives.
Come on! Go! Go!
Desperately fighting the power of the river, the expedition finds itself on the verge of disaster.
Hold back! Hold on!
The expedition is nearing the Indian border and the end of its epic journey. But they're in a crisis situation.
Right draw! Right draw! All forward!
They're trapped in a flash flood which has transformed the river into a raging torrent.
These rivers are classic Himalayan rivers, and they're just raging torrents. They start way up high in the Himalayas, and they just charge all the way to the Indian Terai.
Left back, right forward!
They're badly shaken and exhausted. They need rest.
Hold back! Stop! Stop!
When they reach a calm stretch of river, they pull in and stop.
Forward together. Dig her in, dig her in.
Knowing they're trapped in the jungle, they set up camp next to the sheltered stretch of river. They can only pray that the rain does not return.
Actually feels like it's clearing up a little bit, so these will pretty much effectively be for dew, not for rain.
Although the weather is clearing, it will be at least 12 hours before the river starts to calm. And as night falls, the expedition has a fresh worry.
We only had a certain amount of food that we had taken down the river. So that gave us a timeline on like having to finish by a certain time, make it to the Indian border before we ran out of food.
They've been 2 days longer in the jungle than they planned for. They're eating emergency rations. This food will keep them alive, but it's hard to stomach.
You can eat it cold and halfway cooked if you really needed to, so it could be really nasty.
It's better than freeze-dried.
It doesn't matter what it is, man. At this stage in the game, you got to keep eating.
That night, the expedition members reflect on the hardships they've had to overcome.
I certainly have grown as a person because there's been a whole lot of challenges that were certainly beyond my comfort level that were thrown my way, and it's just sort of a big and emotional time for me. Just have a big feeling of accomplishment.
You can't go through something like we've just gone through and not arrive in a different place as a person. It seems to be it's an impossibility in my mind.
The journey's been incredible. It's been pretty challenging physically, but very rewarding mentally. Without any doubt in my mind, this will be one of my lifetime experiences.
As the group sleeps, the misty valleys of the Mangde CHHU remain free from rain. Then, as day breaks, the jungle throws the expedition a new surprise. Approaching the camp are 4 local tribesmen. They're the first people the group have seen for almost a week. And it's an indication that the expedition are nearing the outer edge of the unexplored jungle. As the only Bhutanese speaker, Ugan becomes the expedition translator.
These 4 people have been sent down from their village and the community up there to basically see what's going on. They had no idea who we were and what we were doing here. So these guys were basically just sent down to check on us and see what we were all about.
They learn that this is the Ken Valley region, one of the most isolated parts of Bhutan. Jerry takes this surprise opportunity to find out what lies ahead.
Mangde CHHU.
아나춘수 지한 님찌기 남 이슬람이나 딘영 그냥 걔를 무tu and the 걔들 지 남 뭐. So it's like an 8-hour walk for them.
And that's a pretty heavy jungle they've got to walk through.
Yeah. There's some villages along
the way.
Yeah, they meet.
It's good news. The expedition are far closer to the border than they thought. And better still, according to their new friends, the river ahead mellows out dramatically.
If we have a good day today, Hugen, there's no reason why we shouldn't make it down to Manas, as long as there's nothing major on this section of river. And then judging by Google Earth and judging by the gradients, it looks like it's definitely feasible.
Yeah, I think we should be able to make it down.
Which is good because we're running very low on food.
Yeah.
Boosted by this information, the team gear up and prepare to move out for what should be the final leg of their epic trip.
We should be 2s or 3s, and if you get to this top and it's looking gnarly, let's stop and regroup. Wait on the rafts would be great. You know, we don't need any kind of stupid accidents on the last day. It's a buzz. It's an incredible challenge. You move a large expedition down a river, you complete a section. It's incredibly satisfying. Nice and steady.
They wave goodbye to the villagers and get ready for the final push. The team is in high spirits. Their inside information about the river is proving accurate. Although heavy with rainwater, it's easily runnable. Pretty soon, the team find themselves floating through a landscape transformed. And the Mangde CHHU opens right out.
Wherever you looked, it was just untouched land. No human beings, no nothing. And then it suddenly started opening up, and then you suddenly go from the steep canyons into this wider area, and it's just unbelievable.
They begin to sense they're nearing their destination. Behind them, the snowy Himalayas fade into the distance, and up ahead, the warm, flat plains of the Indian subcontinent approach.
Things have just become a lot more tropical, and it's a lot thicker, a lot denser. See all these wild banana trees down with this thick foliage. Pretty spectacular, really kind of magical feel to the area.
As they continue down the heavy Mangde CHHU, they begin to see the first signs of civilization. After 7 days in the uncharted land of Manas, the expedition finally makes it out of the jungle and back into the world.
When you embark on a first descent, when you take on all of the complex challenges, coming out the other side is nothing but a tremendous sense of relief because you've committed 24 people's lives.
In this expedition, I think I discovered something that I didn't know was possible, and that was that a group comprised of so many different people with so many different types of experiences can really, you know, cohese and work as a group.
I felt like a reborn person, back to nature, being totally one with nature, with the jungle, with the river, with everything around me. So I can't even put it in words.
I can't express it, but it feels great. I mean, to be the first one, to be the first Bhutanese. I mean, if I never go down again, or if no other Bhutanese ever goes down again, I'd definitely look back with pride and say, I've been there and I've done that.
At last, they hit the Indian border, where they're greeted by their contact and some of the local wildlife. They have become the first people to successfully navigate the Mangde CHHU River and to complete this epic journey. And for Jerry, the expedition is finally over.
I come to these places because of the challenge. I come to these places because we get to go to regions that nobody has ever explored before. I come to these places because I get to put my footprint where nobody has ever been. And that's a pretty special feeling.
Join us next week for Political Obsession. The men who tried to kill Fidel Castro come out